Good afternoon and welcome to Padre's Ponderings.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome you back. We had a big substitute last week.
We did. And I heard that you preached on Sunday about the taming of the tongue.
Avoiding tongue trouble was the name of it. Tongue trouble.
From James.
From James chapter 3, verses 1 to 12.
So I did not get a chance to ask Barb today if she listened to it, since you suggested that she listened to it last week.
I think she might have taken offense at that.
No,
I'm not sure.
She didn't. She knows you well enough to be able to laugh some things off.
You know, that's...
You have to be able to do that.
Oh, man, you can take yourself way too seriously. Way too seriously. And some folks do. Yeah, you gotta be able to roll with it a little bit. Otherwise you wreck yourself.
So that's one of your keys to success in leadership, is sometimes you just have to roll with it.
You just got to roll with it. You know, I've always been that way. People are struggling with something, you know, here's some things to work on, and that kind of give them room to try to work it out, and keep working with them a little bit. And then if they show that they just can't do it or not willing to do it or whatever like that, you have to say, you know, this is not your calling. And that's okay. And then you do what you can to help them get in a place where they're better suited and better gifted and all the rest of that. And a lot of times it's about passion. If a person is passionate about something, they'll take constructive criticism to heart, and they'll work on it, because they're passionate about what the ministry is that they're involved in. But in the absence of passion, you know, you can't get somebody fired up to be a person they're not. You just can't. God created them, and you can't recreate and call yourself being doing God's work for him. He can handle all that himself. But you can help get a person in a place where they can be blessed with the gifts and talents the Lord's given them, and bless others in the process. And that's important too. So I try to work with people on that. And you have to. It's about grace. You do that, and sometimes it works out that you can salvage someone or help redeem them or lift them to new heights, and sometimes it doesn't. I've always believed in ministry that the whole concept of impacting people's lives for Christ for eternity is more important than the individual person, and you can't sacrifice young people and people. You can't sacrifice them to try to redeem this person right here. This person, if they're in the wrong spot, there's a place they can be that'll make a difference in people's lives, and this just might not be the right one. And people get plugged in the wrong place sometimes. I mean, that just happens. And I would hope that other people hit someone that's plugged into the wrong place and realize that's a place for them, and maybe we're the place for them. And maybe the person that's leaving us, there's a place there for that person. And you know, I think God creates us with a plan and a purpose, and gives us the gifts and talents, and there's a place. See, otherwise He'd have created us differently. There's a place and a time. A lot of times I say my things, seeking to do God's will in His way, in His time.
That's key.
In His time.
That's key for sure.
Yeah, a lot of times we get ahead. You don't want to be ahead of God. You don't want to be dragging behind either. You want to be right in the stream. Right in the stream. You want to be that little leaf being carried along. Right there. You don't want to get stuck by the rocks over there, or get ahead of it and go over the waterfall. That's not good either. So what's happening in your world?
I feel like I have wheels attached to me. We drove 3,200 miles last week in about 3 days to take my son to college. And then I've been on 2 different flights this past week. So I feel like, you know how when you've been on a cruise ship and you get off the cruise ship and you feel like you're still moving because you were on it for so long, and I feel like I'm still driving.
Whoa.
But it was good. I saw parts of the country that I've never driven through, West Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, and the Palm Springs area of California. So it was really interesting to see all that, and it looks so similar to the Holy Land.
So that means it was dry and
It was dry.
arid, a lot of rocks.
A lot of rocks, very dry. But it struck me. There were several places that we went through, and it was like, okay,
Well, you know, they,
it must be on similar
I
latitude.
think that Cat Robinson told me that they were filming one of those chosen episodes that she went to, and that was in Texas, wasn't it?
I believe, Kat, if you're watching, you can correct me in the comments. I believe it was the feeding of the 5,000 that they filmed in not too far outside of Dallas.
Comparable landscape.
Well, and the other seasons, I believe, were filmed in Utah.
So it'd be the same. You got to have that.
So it's interesting.
Because the landscape over there is very different. Very different.
And there was one area that we went through. There were lots of, I think they weren't almond trees, maybe. I think it was a section of like almond trees. So they really did look very similar to areas we went through in Galilee.
But you probably had some plants that you saw that are not in Israel.
Probably. Cactus.
I don't remember ever seeing cactus in Israel.
And the vision or the picture that kept coming up, and I sent this to a couple of people because it cracked me up. So we used to watch Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny. I think that was on Sunday mornings before we went to church.
It used to be in the
The
movie.
Roadrunner.
Oh, yeah.
And the Coyote.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, this
Beep,
is
beep.
right. This is exactly where it was. Yeah.
That old Roadrunner had a hard time.
He did. When you're looking for the quicksand and the
Hard
Acme
time. Yep.
Dynamite Company.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good. Good to be home though.
Yep. Anything happening in school over there? You're right in. Well, you're just back.
I just walked
It started
in
while you
and,
were gone.
Five people came in the office, and I've been talking to people all morning. I think the first, it hadn't even been a full week yet. The first 4 days have gone quite well. We posted a video yesterday of children singing Waymaker in here for Monday morning chapel. That
You
was
posted
really
that
neat
on
to
Facebook?
see. That was on Facebook. The school posted it, and then we shared it on the church page. But it was really neat to see. It was somebody from behind, like at the doors, took the video. So you saw the children in the red, white, and blue. And you looked up, and there was the stained glass of Jesus with the little children. It was
they'd
beautiful.
have filled the place up too.
This whole area was full for sure.
That's
So it was
great.
just kind of neat to see that. So every Monday they'll be in here, or 3 Mondays out of the month they'll be in here for chapel, and then
And you have the
family
little
chapel
people
at-
first, or you have the little people second? Because they have one is
I
one.
want to say the older kids are first, and the little ones are come
Because they
second.
can't get. It takes 2
Oh, we have to have 2.
to get everybody
They
in.
won't all
so.
fit in.
And then next week is the family chapel once a month.
Yes.
So they have them all
We have to
together,
do that in the
and
gym.
parents come for that if they want to. That's wonderful.
And that has traditionally been on Wednesdays, and they're moving chapel to Mondays. So what is really convenient and helpful for everybody is the chairs from Sunday service will just stay up. And then it'll be the service the next day for the school.
That's great. That's great. And is that just a regular service? Do they have communion with that,
It's
or what?
communion.
Well, Nathan will do a good job with that. So you're not on the faith formation team, but you and Elizabeth have your offices right in the midst of the faith
We're in
formation
the midst
people.
of it. So there was
In
something.
that same office area right there. Good. So you're got your finger on the pulse of stuff.
We're all on the church team,
Yep.
for sure.
And
but we're
that's the
not
church
teaching
team has its
classes.
offices all right together.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
It was really neat. So when I walked over there after having a meeting over here this morning, walked over and something had come up and somebody needed prayer. And so anybody who was in our office area, we all just got together and prayed for that need for that person right then and there. And so it really is a team mentality over there.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Did they move in the new classrooms yet upstairs?
I
But
don't
that's supposed
know
to be
about
most any
that.
day now. There's
I don't
3 or
know
4 new
about that.
classrooms. Yep. Food bank perking?
Food bank is. I got an email, haven't had a chance to read it, from Craig Pelly giving an update about yesterday and needs for this coming week.
Still over 200, I saw that.
So,
Canned chicken,
working hard.
pasta, cereal, most anything.
it has been canned chicken, pasta, cereal the past couple weeks. Soup.
But anything works.
Oh, you can bring anything, absolutely.
Anything.
Absolutely.
So what's the big thing coming up that you're got your sights on there?
We got a lot
We got
coming up.
leadership is starting, confirmation.
Got, cards printed up, should be here for Sunday services starting next week for our fall teachings. So we'll have Pastor Jonathan's information is on one side, turn it over, and your fall teaching will be on the back. So it's C.S. Lewis and By Faith Moses Part 2.
Part 2, going to Egypt.
Going to Egypt. So
Hopefully we'll
those
get
will
them
be
out.
available for you to invite people to come to. I think both of those will be in this space so that we can record and stream. But you can invite, that's a great opportunity to invite people.
You got a women's event coming up too, don't you?
We do have a women's event coming up. Information's going to be coming out about that probably next week. We're going to do we're a host church,
Which means
which
what?
means anybody from anywhere who's looking to come to the simulcast can come to our church. It's free. So looking forward to being able
And
to
who are you
bring people
simulcasting?
from home. Priscilla Shire, Tony Evans' daughter, one of his daughters.
Now, will you do that in here, or you do that at,
I think we're going to do it in the chapel, so it'll be streamed on the walls right here.
wonderful.
And her brother, Anthony Evans, does the music. He's amazing.
And he's coming too?
Well, they're not coming here, but we're streaming it.
Okay.
Right. I don't know where she's going to be live. I've seen her live twice.
Well, their home church is in Atlanta, isn't it?
Dallas.
Dallas. Okay. Well, that's probably where she'll be.
I don't know. She travels around a good bit for that.
And then confirmation classes coming up, reaffirmation, strengthening your journey.
So who do you encourage to come to that for the adult one? Who do you encourage to come to that? New members.
We send letters to all the new invitations to all the new members who joined since in the past year, the adults. And we encourage all of them to come.
Because if you are from a different denomination or not
most
church
are, see.
background,
And
it's really
most are from a different
informative.
denomination or increasingly no denomination.
Right.
So you get a good feel for Anglicanism. And then the parts that they're really with are about what do the sacraments mean. I had a lady join the church today from the Baptist church. She said, we had communion once a year, and they had a table in the back, and you went back there and picked up your cracker and a little thing of wine, and you went back and did it yourself.
Once a year. Wow.
Once a year. And I guess that varies from church to church,
Right.
and that kind of thing. But she left and told her friend, she said, I didn't do anything. But her background was in the Catholic Church, where the sacraments are real important.
Oh, yeah.
And so here and she was just visiting, she wasn't a member. And here she walked into a situation where it was totally the opposite end of the spectrum, where it was just kind of like a PS. And it means whatever you want it to mean, but that's, in a sacramental liturgical church like we are, it has real meanings. So we talk about all that and the history of this church. But Jonathan does 2 sessions. It's 5 sessions. Jonathan does 2 of them on the history of Anglicanism. And I'll do one on this church, and then I'll do one on membership, and I'll do one on sacraments. What does it mean to be a member of a Christian church? And then what do the sacraments mean? We'll focus on baptism and communion on that and talk about the other 5, but mainly focus on those. So people get an understanding, because it's amazing how many people attend the historic church and they see things, but they don't know what they mean or why they're there, and everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. And it just enriches your worship if you know what that's about. Same way here.
That's what the first session of confirmation I attended last year. And when you went around and showed all the different parts of the building,
The building.
and why things are placed where they are, and the significance behind everything, even your vestment.
Right.
Show that. That was really informative.
Very special time. And if you understand the space and the meaning of the things in the space, then worshiping in that space, it's just like you walk into somebody's homes and you see all the memorabilia and pictures and all that. As you understand those, then it gives you a better context of what this family is all about. Because we tend to put things up that cause us to remember what shaped us, and invariably what shaped us in positive ways. We don't ever put a picture on the wall of the car accident that we were in. You don't have that. So they tend to be positive benchmarks in people's lives. And that's, you look back and they just were shaped by those things in profound kind of ways. So if you want to understand a family, go to the house, walk around, ask questions. Why is this here? What is this about? And you'll walk away knowing more about that family than you ever possibly would have sitting around the dinner table.
I had dinner at Tom and Terry Hendrickson's last year. I think it was last year. And I learned so much about Father Tom. He is an avid baker.
Really?
He is. And he made the best chocolate chip cookies. I didn't know that about him until I had dinner at his house.
Oh.
He said he could follow directions on a recipe pretty well. So that's good.
Your mama can make them too now.
Yeah.
She's working with this different kind of recipes now. She's starting to make almond milk. And what do? You bake. It's amazing to watch her do that.
It really is.
Yeah, that is something. Grinding up those almonds and sifting and sorting it all out. And then you're left with the pulp. And what do you do with that? And she's come up with, I guess looking on YouTube or something, different things you can do with the pulp. And one of the things you can do with it is grind it up and make flour out of it. And so I'm thinking pretty quick now we're going to get something made out of almond flour. But you can buy it in the store. I didn't realize that. But it's supposed to be very healthy and nutritious, all the rest of that. And so I'm sure that's coming. But it really is neat to watch her make that milk.
There's pretty much a YouTube video for anything.
Anything. Wow.
Yeah.
And then you got children's confirmation classes coming up too.
Youth confirmation,
youth,
so
yes.
7th through
7th grade.
11th grade, or 12th grade. But if you're 18, you would go to the adult one. And that is starting next Tuesday, actually.
And I imagine if you were an older teenager and you wanted to, and your parents were going, you could go with your parents if you wanted to. What do you think?
I would think.
If you were a junior or senior in high school, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that starts next week. Daughters of the Holy Cross this Saturday are having an informational meeting.
Where is that going to be?
At the parish hall. So it's at 10 o'clock on Saturday if you're interested in learning more about that.
Daughters of the Holy Cross. And parish hall's looking good.
Parish hall is getting a complete makeover.
Yep. Been a long time, 25 years. But I was walking through there last Thursday, I think it was, and seeing what was done. Then I was there on the weekend, and yeah, it really looks nice. The handyman ministry, those fellows have done an amazing job. Roger Abney's been working with that. Jay Shook, there's a number of them. But they've done an amazing job with that. And then we've contracted out what they couldn't take care of.
Because like the painting of the big room with that high ceiling, you have to have scaffolding and that kind of stuff. So Mike Grace and his crew have done a really nice job of painting, and it's nice and bright.
Yep. They were ready to start painting this week, to start painting the bathrooms. And then I want to say this week or maybe next week, maybe it's next week after the bathrooms are painted, that new petitions come in with
the stalls.
Yeah, stalls, yeah. The stall things come in. They got work on kitchen counters and bathroom counters, bathroom mirrors. All that ought to be coming in, but they were kind of at the stage, some of the stuff needs to be done after painting is through with. And so it'll be in the next couple of weeks. But the goal is to, and sound system in there gets replaced, much simplified so that we don't have the difficulties that we had before.
It should be that everything's hopefully completed with that big project by Labor Day, maybe.
By the end of August. That's the target date. You know, supply chain issues and all the rest of the stuff that's going on now is.
You always, in pencil, you put the stuff like that in pencil.
Yep.
With a question mark.
Yep.
And then when it happens, it's exciting.
But you're going to have a target.
Right.
So that's our target, is to get through, because so much starts happening in the parish hall by the time you get to Labor Day. But it's a real special facility, has been for a lot of years, and now it's just being upgraded. Very thankful for that.
Some new pictures have been ordered.
Y'all doing the wraparound?
We're doing canvases, and they've been ordered of different scenes around the parish. Last kind of updated pictures.
Great.
From different things. So those will be, I think we ordered 16 of them. So they'll be in that back hallway. There's a lot of wall space when you start trying to figure out how many pictures do we need.
It's a big building.
It is.
It's a big building.
It is. So you'll start to see some new things popping up.
Yep.
And I heard that you threw people that some people that attended the 10 o'clock service on Sunday were thrown for a loop a little bit.
In what way?
Well, am I saying this right? Chasuble was on the left side and not the right side. So everybody was whispering, why is it on the left? So you took a different role on Sunday. You preached.
But Nathan was being the celebrant, and I said, now Nathan, if you would like to put it on the other side, that'd be more convenient for you.
Because he was sitting on the other side.
He sits on the other side. The rector's chair is on this side. And so that's why the altar guild always sets it up over there, because usually I'm the one that if I'm there, I'm the one that celebrates. And I said, no, Nathan, you're celebrating today, so if you want to put it on the other side, that's fine. And so his first question was, will people mind? I said, no, it'll be okay. They'll understand. And so he put it over there, and that's great. That's great. I think that's one of the big things about having the younger fellows coming along is you got to give them room, and you got to let them do, and they got to learn. And the only way you learn liturgy and stuff, you can have it in your head, but it's different when you're doing it, and it's different when you're doing it in front of people. So, in the 8 o'clock service, I said, now I want you to give the announcements today. So, 8 o'clock service at the announcement time, he had his iPhone down here, so he's reading off the thing right there. And I saw him doing that, so I walked down there. What do you got down there? And so I picked at him a little bit about it. So the next service he had it. No iPhone. He was right there on it. But little things like that, you know. But he's a special fellow, and as are all the young guys we've had. Special fellow. And it's a joy to be working with him and being a mentor of sorts and positioning for success. Yeah. And I think the folks who are there and see Nathan coming along and doing things that they're normally used to seeing me do, I think they understand all that. And and I know how to be a sacristan and help with all that.
Because you did that for a time also.
Oh yeah. And for so many years, it was just me. You didn't have that. So we were 8 or 9 years before we had an assistant. So, and that's God's good. So.
Well, very good. All right. Well, you're on this campus this week, and it's communion at Cross Point, and you're preaching on James again. So this is avoiding tongue trouble.
Communion at Cross Point comes
every third
Sunday of the month. Okay. Well, I'll be there. Be glad to do that. And we got some teams lined up to do the bread and the wine and all that. Steve Nitz takes on that.
Steve Nitz does a great job with that team, and we've got 4 sections now though, because we rearranged the chairs a little bit to be able to put more chairs in that space since we're not starting another service for a while. 9 o'clock service over there. So we have 4 sections now.
So how many teams do you have to
So I
have?
think we'll have to have 4 teams.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
So it's been interesting to see with rearranged chairs where people sit.
Oh, oh,
And they invariably sit where they did before.
even when the chairs have been shifted
It's
around?
fascinating.
You know, people do that at historic, they do it here too. They,
So we even moved the chairs, and they're pretty close to where they were before. So creatures of habit.
Yes, sir. That's what they are.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. Just what you're accustomed to. But Deborah Watkins one time gave me, I've talked to her a couple of times, and she said, no, I know the people I sit beside all the time. I'll talk to you later. I need to go meet some new people. And I love that.
That's exactly right.
I love that.
And the church looks different if you sit in different places.
It does.
And you get to meet different people. It's one church, one Lord, one faith, one baptism.
So thank you, Deborah, for the suggestions. So, all right, well, leave us with one parting thought. Something, give us a nugget. What's a good nugget? You always have them stored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, any nugget I would have be related to right now about that sermon that I'm working on. But
So what's the
I'm
one
working
you're
on my next one after that, and that's challenges of parenting. And then my next one after that.
Well, that's a long sermon. You could cover a
They
lot
gotta
of road
really-
there.
really narrow it down. Then, so that one's pretty much in good shape. Then the one after that I'm working on, what I'm really working on now, is ministering to aging parents.
That's another
And
lengthy one.
there are many people in the parish
Many.
who are ministering to aging parents.
And the challenges.
And sometimes the minister, very often now, the aging parent comes to live with the people in this area, and that has its own set of challenges too. So that they can narrow that distance, because it's just awfully hard to minister to aging parents when you're 500 or 1,000 miles away. It's just, you can't replace the touching thing. You know?
Presence.
So talking about that and trying to identify some of the consistencies in this growing older process, and if you understand how difficult it is growing older, then you know the emotional mindset of the aging parents that you're trying to work with, and you have a sense of how to minister into that if you know about it. And so I'm working on that. And then the one after that I think I'm going to do is, if you think about the challenge of parenting and then ministering to aging parents, then I think the next one I'm going to do after that is burying a loved one, kind of a scenario
Oh my gosh, the circle of life.
in there, because there's a lot of that. So.
There's a lot of that, and there's a lot to
And
to talk about before it happens.
Oh yeah, and that, you know, that'll kind of, that one ought to fall before the going home thing does.
Which is November the 12th, and we'll be getting information out about that in the
Well, that's
next
very,
couple of
very
months.
important. But you know, if you burying a loved one is really becomes a different thing if you dealt with the business ends of it first.
Exactly.
If you haven't, then all the business stuff can be like just a hand grenade thrown into the middle of the grieving process, and that doesn't bless anybody. And if it hadn't been done ahead of time and worked out, then you got all kind of potential blow-ups taking place, and that doesn't bless anybody either.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of the trajectory looking in the fall, based upon, you know, people's needs in the
Life.
congregation. And what's amazing is we have a lot of folks in the congregation who have retired and moved to this area, but their parents, even though they've retired, their parents are still alive. And they live, you know, who knows where. They're all over the place. A lady joined the church this morning, and she has 3 sons, and one of them is in Puerto Rico, and the other one is in Peru, And then one of them is out in Texas, and she lives here, you know, and they're all over the place. And I asked her, what is the boy, Dominican Republic, Dominican Republic. I said, what is the boy doing? She said, well, he works hard all winter long. He's a ski instructor in Lake Tahoe or somewhere like that. Save his money, and then summertime he goes to somewhere else and vacations.
Yeah.
And vacations. But the point is, the parents are here, and the children are scattered. See, and that is most often the case now.
Very much so.
Parents are here, children are scattered. Parents are here, and their parents are somewhere else. And so you got this ministry thing over a distance, and Zoom does not bless that kind of ministry thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't bless that kind of ministry thing. Had a man in the church who died during COVID, and I talked to him on the telephone not long before he died, and I said, what can I do for you? And he said, I would just like somebody to touch me without a glove on.
Oh, mercy.
Can you imagine that? His wife couldn't get in to see him. Nobody could get in to see him. Everybody's masked up. He's by himself, and everybody's masked up. There's no human contact. See? No human contact. And as parents are up in years, and there's separation, and they're ministering to them, the ministry of being present, you just can't get around that. You just can't get around it. So, anyway, that's a nugget.
That was kind of
Is that kind of what you were searching for there?
a downer.
Well, no, this is true.
But I know that a lot of people are very thankful that you're going to be spending time from talking about those things from a biblical perspective.
Yep.
Things that we need to hear.
Yep. You know, and I hope that all of us, as we're preaching, you're doing it. You're coming out of Scripture in a way that's relevant to people's lives and something that has application when they leave the worship service. It's not just a intellectual or emotional exercise that takes place in an hour, but is disconnected from reality. Right. So I try to preach into those things that I know people are struggling with because they talk to me about it.
Right. So thank you for that.
Amen.
All right. Okay, well, drop off.
As we get out of that hole.
Drop off your food for the food bank. You can drop off any day right here at the chapel from 9 to 4:30 every day till noon on Friday. All services on the weekend. Saturday you can drop off at the God's Goods complex, what we call the Mission Mall, from 9 to 11, and Monday from 9 to noon. I feel like we make it pretty easy to drop off food.
And bring it to a worship service.
And yeah, you can bring to any service on either campus. We have people that come and pick them up on Monday mornings.
Yep.
So don't forget that. Look for this weekend on the different campuses. Look for the fall teaching schedule. You'll get a little bit more information on that to look forward to. And remember, they're not just for you to take, but to take a few and then give them to people that you think might be interested in joining.
Tell them about the sermon notes that are on there.
Sermon notes. If you click on the website, if you click the media tab and you click sermon notes, every sermon that is preached at the Church of the Cross comes with sermon notes. And this is a great opportunity for, if you have a small group, the video's right there to watch the video of the sermon together. The sermon notes are right there. It's discussion questions for you to go through either on your own at home after you've listened to a sermon, or you've suggested before, do that before you come and hear the sermon.
That's right.
So you do the prep work ahead of time, or you can dig in afterwards too. But right there are all the sermon notes from the past, over a year.
Yep.
We started that, I think, Easter maybe last year. So you could even go back and re-listen to a sermon from the past.
And all those are there. All our past sermons are there. Great.
Yep. So look for that. That's another way to dig in and continue after you hear a sermon. Don't forget about it and store it away.
Right.
But keep digging in. All right. We'll go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God. See you when I see you. Never doubt God's love for you or mine.